On your Instagram page, you write, being a bit more self sufficient right where I am in your bio. And I think it is so important to start being self sufficient and sustainable now with what you have rather than wait for that idealistic farmscape and tiny homes that everybody is posting on YouTube and social media. So, where does someone start? What are some ideas for urban homesteading for beginners?
I started out with one block raised bed, and I got the blocks from off of Facebook Marketplace. They were free. I went to one of the big stores, bought a little bit of soil, and I just started. And my first year was horrible. But the thing with gardening is if you get one good success, you're like, okay, I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna try this again. And so with having a completely horrible first season, I still continue to expand. And at this point, I feel like I can grow anything.
Welcome to the Mother Earth News and Friends podcast. At Mother Earth News for 50 years and counting, we've been dedicated to conserving the planet's natural resources while helping you conserve your financial resources. In this podcast, we host conversations with experts in the fields of sustainability, homesteading, natural health, and more to share all about how you can live well wherever you are in a way that values both people and our Mother Earth.
Good day, everyone. I am Kenny Coogan, and joining me on this episode of Mother Earth News and Friends is Asia Spratley from Yellow Door Urban Homestead. Asia started gardening in 2020 during the pandemic. Her daughter historically enjoyed eating healthy things, and Asia did not. Through working her garden, she now eats better and has a place to relax and exhale through the end of the day. She also raises chickens and quail on her city lot in Virginia. Yellow Door Urban Homestead now has over 14,000 followers on Instagram. Today, we'll be talking about apartment homesteading and how to be a homesteader in a limited space. Welcome to the podcast, Asia.
Hello, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you having me.
And we are excited to have you. So, Asia, how would you define what is modern homesteading?
Modern homesteading to me, for me, it's urban homesteading. So doing it in my backyard, or people doing it on their balconies, on their porches, on their patio. I think that it has, changed a little bit because everyone can't, have acres of land, and so I feel like modern homesteading is being a little bit self-sufficient on your own where you are.
I mentioned that you have some poultry, you're growing a vegetable garden. How would you describe exactly what you do at Yellow Door Urban Homestead? Is this a full-time job? Is this supplemental income?
At Yellow Door Urban Homestead, I am doing urban homesteading. I have six chickens, I have three quail. I am looking to have way more quail than I have right now. But in urban homesteading, you have to use the space that you have. And so I raise my quail in my laundry room. I have a covey outside. And I would say it originally started out as just, a hobby. All of this just was a hobby. I watched YouTube, and I saw so many people doing it. And I was like, this is so exciting. I saw it on a larger scale. I'm sure I can do it in my home. Check the ordinance in my city. I was able to have chickens. There wasn't much about quail. And so at this point, it is full time. I actually left my job about a month ago. I am growing vegetables. I have a orchard area, a small orchard area right now. I'm growing grapes. I'm growing figs. Finally got a fig tree this year. I have apples. I have peaches, and then just any vegetable that I want to grow. I feel like I can grow it in my backyard. I grow up on trellises, which saves me space, and so I grow a lot in the small space that I do have.
On your Instagram page, you write, being a bit more self sufficient right where I am in your bio. And I think it is so important to start being self sufficient and sustainable now with what you have rather than wait for that idealistic farmscape and tiny homes that everybody is posting on YouTube and social media. So, where does someone start? What are some ideas for urban homesteading for beginners?
It depends on what kind of space that you have, but I would say starting with like pots or bags. If it's something you don't want to have take up your whole backyard or a portion of your backyard, killing grass, before you're sure that it's something you want to do, bags, pots, even the grow towers. I don't have any, but they seem like they, work really well. And I imagine that they do. But you can start, just growing in a bag or in a pot. And I will assure you that it will catch on. And if you have the space, you will want to make a garden bed in your backyard. I started out with one block raised bed, and I got the blocks from off of Facebook Marketplace. They were free. I went to one of the big box stores, bought a little bit of soil, and I just started. And my first year was horrible. But the thing with gardening is if you get one good success, you're like, okay, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try this again. And so with having a completely horrible first season, I still continue to expand. And at this point, I feel like I can grow anything. So just getting started. So if you want to start with a garden bed, do that. If you just want to start with some pots or some bags, do that. Just get started.
So you've been doing this for a couple of years, and now you have a little bit of an orchard. When designing a small homestead layout, what should listeners be considering? Because I think about that French potager garden idea where you have the kitchen herbs right outside the kitchen window, and that makes so much sense to me, and I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're getting started, you do want to make it easy for you because I don't want to say that gardening is like easy. It's enjoyable, but it is a lot of work. You have to pay attention to your garden. So if you can make it easier for yourself, like the French potager garden close to your home, as those herbs grow, you can start to come outside and not have to walk across your yard to get those herbs. And then you'll start to taste and you're like, oh, this tastes much different. But the other thing that I would say you want to pay attention to, and I don't know that most people think about this in the beginning, because I know I did not. You want to pay attention to where your sun is, because while vegetables can grow in shade or, part shade, they do their best in full sun. And so you want to pay attention to where south is in relation to your home or to your garden, because that's where you're going to get the most success, making sure your garden has the amount of light that it needs. That would be the biggest thing. And then as you're planting out, do the research on how tall certain vegetables grow, because that's another thing. You fill a garden bed with vegetables, but if you haven't paid attention to where your sun is coming from, if you have a vegetable that grows taller than the vegetable behind it, then you may not see the success that you were expecting to see. But it could be that one little thing that you change. Let me plant this vegetable in front of this one because my sun comes from over here. So I would think that would be a design as you're designing your urban homestead or your urban garden or even where you're sitting your pots at. Definitely pay attention to the sun as you come up with your design.
I think people who don't grow their own food probably don't know the four directions. And then
That's true.
they're probably also not really paying attention to the rain patterns.
Well, yeah, the rain patterns are important as well. So in my urban homestead, I do save rainwater. I also use a sprinkler. I also use the city water. So it's just kind of what you choose. They have drip irrigation, in my opinion, and maybe it's for my space. I don't feel like it's more work to put in the irrigation system than to just wait on Mother Nature or to turn a sprinkler on.
I also like that idea about making sure that the tall crops are in the back so they can get the sun. A lot of times people move their plants, if they're in pots, around too much because plants are not really known for their migratory habits. So you got to give them some time to get adjusted. But of course, you want to give them a lot of sun.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Soper's Choice. For more than 25 years, Soper's Choice has been the trusted name in high-quality oils and ingredients for handcrafted soaps and cosmetics. If you're passionate about creating, whether it's a hobby or a full-fledged business, Soper's Choice is your one-stop shop. Their impressive range of products includes everything from organic oils and specialty waxes to natural butters and soap bases. And here's a special offer for our Mother Earth News and Friends listeners. Head over to www.soaperschoice.com and use the code MOTHEREARTH at checkout to get a free apron with any purchase. It's the perfect addition to your soap-making wardrobe. Offer good through October 30th, 2024. Happy soap making!
Other than growing your own food, what are some other ways that people can become more self-sufficient? What are some other small homestead ideas?
If you are not growing your own food, that doesn't mean you can't preserve food. It does not mean that you can't prepare for the situation where maybe the stores don't have what you need, kind of back in 2020. There are a lot of farmers markets where people do grow their own food. But even if you're not going to go to a farmer's market, you can find sales at the store and then start learning how to preserve, learning how to can, learning how to freeze dry, learning how to dehydrate, those types of things, because that also will allow you to become a little more self-sufficient in the way of you don't always have to go to a store. Or if you are at a store and they don't have what you need, it is possible that you've already put that up or preserved it from, tomatoes that you made into sauce that you got from a farmer's market, or dry beans were on sale at the store and you saved those. You don't have to always grow your own food, but I think those are some of the ways that you could possibly start to be a little more self-sufficient in a way of just kind of saving and preserving.
Earlier, when you were mentioning about getting free things off of Craigslist or Facebook, that's definitely how I started. I'm up to 9 or 10 50-gallon rain barrels, and I'm in Florida, and I probably have 20 banana trees, and all of them came for free off of Facebook or Craigslist, people just making divisions.
I love that idea. I use Facebook Marketplace a lot for things that I'm looking for. Just because if I can get it free or if it's cheaper, then that's even reusing things. I love that.
We want to be self-sufficient, but also we need to be a member of the community. So if you start getting free things like a free rain barrel or just a normal barrel that you have to modify into a rain barrel, then you've made that connection, and then you could offer those people your preserved tomatoes, or you could
Yeah,
start networking.
absolutely. Kind of bartering.
So you're preserving food, you're raising poultry, you're collecting rainwater. Has any other aspect of your lifestyle changed in the past 3 to 4 years in regards to homesteading?
So I also compost. Did not do well with it this year. I was very busy, but I do have a 2-bin compost system. And so a lot of the waste that would go into the landfills are now being turned into compost to nourish my garden. I'm also getting into medicinal herb use for medicine. I still do use some conventional medicines depending on how bad the sickness is. But I'm also getting into herbal medicine, wanting to grow my own herbs, make tinctures, make concoctions, things of that nature. And so that has changed because I definitely used to be, let's go to the store, let's get medicine. And now, if I do get sick or my children get sick, my first thing is, what do we have that's natural that we may be able to treat this with? And so that's an aspect of my life that has changed. I do, as it relates to the quail, I do raise them. I hatch my own eggs to keep the covey going. That is just kind of full circle of raising my own meat. And it's, of course, not the only meat I eat, but if there was a situation where I could not get meat, I have a sustainable source that's just going to keep going to make me a little bit more self-sufficient.
Do you have one male quail and then 2 females?
Yes, right now that's what I have. 1 male, 2 females. Originally, I had 4 females and 1 male. But just like any other homestead, my urban homestead isn't any different. There will be loss, and I have lost a couple of quail since I started this covey. But in general, like quail don't make a lot of noise. And in my city limits, I can't have a rooster. And for the chickens, we use those for eggs. So that's protein source. And then for the quail, we're able to hatch because we can have a rooster. They don't make much noise at all.
And you mentioned that you're raising them in your laundry room, is your laundry room outside or inside?
I have a laundry room that's attached to the house, but it's closed off. It has its own door. And so I just recently kind of converted that into, I guess, what you would call, I don't want to say a root cellar, but because it's not cool or in temperature control, but it's where I will be saving all of my preserved food, all of my cured food. And so I do raise them in the laundry room, but it is closed off from the house. And so you have a separation there. So I have a flock outside, and then the ones that I hatch for meat, they are raised in the laundry room. So I have a group that continues to give me eggs for hatching and for eating. And then as I hatch them, I raise them in the laundry room to process them once they're ready.
You live in Virginia, which is a pretty good climate for raising or growing vegetables and fruits almost year round. Can you talk a little bit about your seasonality? Are you growing most of it in the spring and summer and then preserving a lot, or do you want to try to grow a little bit all year round?
For the vegetables that, most people think of growing, the tomatoes, the peppers, the cucumbers, that's all done through, spring and summer. And so I do preserve a good amount of my vegetables from spring and summer, but I also grow, from fall all the way through winter. So a lot of our brassicas, so that's like cabbage, collards, kale, those things in my zone 7B in Virginia, they will grow right up until the next spring. So I plant them out early September. That's when I decide to plant, but you can plant your fall vegetables in my area as early as sometime, late August. But they will grow, and I will be able to harvest all the way through winter because they're very cold hardy, very cold hardy. So like I said, I grow 365 days a year. And unless we have a really odd cold snap, I always have something coming out of my garden.
For those brassicas, are you preserving them at all, or are you eating a couple leaves fresh every few days?
Oh no, I'm absolutely preserving those too. So I'll do a big harvest, clean them, blanch them, and then I freeze them. Sometimes I'll freeze them in like cupcake pans. And so tins, the cupcake tins. And so you portion it out. But I do a lot more freezing in the fall and in winter than I do any other type of preserving. So I don't do a lot of dehydrating or canning. And I'm very new to canning. So I'm learning canning, but I do a lot of freezing in the fall. But yeah, no, it's I can eat fresh and preserve in the fall through winter.
Now, of course, listeners can go to motherearthnews.com to learn about how to can and jam. Earlier, Asia, we were talking about doing what you can where you're at, and I hear you're saying you're preserving a lot of food. Did you have to purchase an extra freezer or refrigerator or shelving with your new journey?
I already had a deep freezer. I haven't had to purchase anything new in the way of freezing, but yes, shelving. And I did have to get new shelving, but I work with a company who was nice enough to send me two shelves, nice size shelves. When you are ready to do this, and depending on at what like level you want to do this, it is possible that you may have to purchase more things, but it'll absolutely be worth it in the end when you can just go into whatever area of your house you're choosing to, or apartment that you're choosing to do this in, and grab your own food that you grew, and you know what was used to grow it and how it was grown. It'll definitely be worth it. But yes, I did have to get a few more things to make this homesteading wish that I have a thing.
Now, next month on the Mother Earth News and Friends podcast, we're going to be talking about fermenting. And I mentioned it there, but I'll mention it now to you, Asia. When I started my homesteading journey, maybe 12 years ago, on Facebook Marketplace, somebody was giving away a stock pot and probably 30 mason jars, and then the big tongs to get the jars out.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's how I started. It was all free.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. I like I said, Facebook Marketplace is a great place to go for, free things and things that you want to use, because people just, sometimes want to get rid of the things and they don't care to get money for it.
I think all of those jars were the smallmouth jars, and now
Okay.
I only do largemouth. But in the beginning, the smallmouth were nice because they were free.
Yeah, so I do use wide mouth a lot now. I don't even know that I knew that there was a wide mouth jar until someone gave me some, and I was like, "Oh, these are much easier to use." So I definitely understand switching from small mouth to large mouth.
But it was nice to start with them, and then, just like you said, you just gift them away
Yeah,
and you replace them
absolutely,
with what you want.
absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor, and when we return, we'll be focusing on the best vegetables to grow in small spaces.
Attention soap makers and cosmetic creators. Are you looking for top quality ingredients for your next project? Look no further than Soaper's Choice. Whether you're a full-fledged business or are simply making soaps for your own home, Soaper's Choice knows excellent ingredients are at the heart of everything that you craft. That's why they offer premium quality and reliable sourcing for all their products in the right sizes for you. Head to www.soaperschoice.com to explore their full list of products, including soap bases, oils, butters, and waxes, and use the code MOTHEREARTH at checkout to receive a free apron with your purchase. Offer good through October 30th, 2024.
We are back with Asia Spratley from Yellow Door Urban Homestead. So, Asia, what are some of the best vegetables to grow in small spaces?
So some of the best vegetables to grow in small spaces, in my opinion, is any vegetable. I'm going to be honest with you. But I guess it is a way to answer the question for people who are new to gardening. I would say radishes. If you are just starting out, I would say give radishes a try. They are one of the quickest maturing vegetables that I think I have ever grown, like a 30-day vegetable. Some of them are even down to about 20 days. Um, I like to grow tomatoes, of course. If you're just getting started, I would think a determinate variety would be best because you don't have to worry about a lot of staking or trellising. And so you just grow that tomato. You can put it in a cage, and you'll get a lot of tomatoes off of that one plant. And then maybe think about determinants a little bit later, so you don't have to worry about trellising or staking things. Lettuce, very easy, does not take up a lot of space, and you can grow a lot of lettuce in a small space as well. I would think cucumbers, and they have varieties that do not bind, like have very long binds, and cucumbers are very prolific. And so you'll get a lot of cucumbers as well. And then of course herbs. So herbs they can get large, but they don't need a lot of care in some cases, in most cases. So they can deal with the drought. They can deal with soil that's not the best. Give them a try. I try everything. My thought is if I can put it in the ground, then I can put it in a bag. I can put it in a pot. It's going to grow as long as there's soil. And I always say that if I can grow it in the ground, I'm going to try it in a pot if I need to.
My neighbor, who I learned a lot of my homesteading skills from, she gets out that ruler and she freely sows her radishes and carrots. But then
Mhm.
after they germinate, she gets out that ruler. Every inch, she's culling them. But
Yeah.
sometimes she has a lot of free time on her hands now that she's retired. She's trying to transplant the carrots and the radishes, which people are not really known to do, but she's able to successfully do them, even though you can get, 200 carrot seeds for like $1.
Yeah.
But
I think though that's one of the things you do just to see if it will work. And I do a lot of things like that in my garden. I'm like, someone said don't
Mhm.
do this, but I'm gonna do it because I want to see if it works. And a lot of times it does. So I definitely understand her trying it.
And you mentioned you can grow a lot of lettuce in small areas. Do you cut and come again, or are you just removing the outside leaves?
No, I cut and come again. I do a lot of cut and come again type. So I'll just take out, all the leaves I can, leave a few so that, of course, they can photosynthesize and continue to grow. But I do a lot of cut and come again in the fall. And so that's how I can keep my vegetables growing all winter long. So even collards, I don't pull the whole plant. I just pull the leaves, leave a few, and then allow it to continue to grow. I pretty much my kale, my collards, even cabbage, because you can eat the outside leaves. If you want a cabbage head, of course, you want to leave it so that it can head up. But I do a lot of cut and come again, specifically in fall, because I don't like the cold. So I don't want to go and replant. I don't want to do any of that. I just want what I planted in the warmer season to continue to grow.
When you're planting your root crops and your lettuces, do you sow them in succession or do you sow them all at the same time?
I sew at the same time because I don't like the cold. So once it starts to get that chill in the air, I definitely go into my garden, but I don't enjoy having to plant and get water on me. Succession planting is absolutely a great idea. I don't do it in the fall. Now, in the summertime, there are things that I will succession sow. So I don't really grow lettuce in the summer because it's just too hot where I am. But like tomatoes, if you can get them started and in the seedlings at a good mature state, once blight comes in and the tomatoes start to die, you can just start to replant those. And in my area, they'll go right up until the first frost. And so I think succession sowing is a great way to keep your crops going. I still need to work a little bit on that, making sure I have the seedlings for when the first set of tomato plants die. Or even nasturtiums. It's a flower, but they're edible. They can be used medicinally. So once my summer nasturtiums die out, I do have another set of nasturtiums that'll grow right up through to the frost. So I do think succession planting is a great way, especially in a small space, to get as much as you can out of your space throughout the year.
Are you seeding everything yourself or do you have a source to purchase rare heirloom or colorful seedlings?
I probably use the same sites that most people use: Baker Creek, Botanical Interest, Mary's Heirloom. She has a good amount. I don't know that everyone knows that website, but Mary's Heirlooms, strictly medicinal. I do save my own seeds, but originally I'm purchasing them from a store or from a website, and then I will save them.
When you're planting seedlings, you raise them yourself.
In most cases, yes. I normally start my own seeds for summer. I'm always successful at making sure I have my seedlings because you're starting them in a slower part of part of the year. And so I have time to make sure I'm watching them and caring for them and making sure the lights and things are on. This fall and last fall, I was not successful in keeping my seedlings alive for fall. I have done it many years before, but I was working and there was not a lot of time. I didn't have time. So I will do it either way, if I'm honest. I don't see, people are like, you should start your own seeds, things like that. But if you are growing food, I don't think it matters how that plant started.
People in Hawaii and Florida, when you go to the big box stores, they're selling the same things that they would sell to somebody in like Wisconsin or New York, and it's completely the wrong season. But my local feed store, they have a little more unique varieties, and they're also actually at the appropriate time. Because just like you, there's no way that I can grow a lettuce in the summer. But those
Right.
big box stores are trying to sell you lettuce and brassicas and winter peas and stuff that would do really well in the Midwest, but not in the Southeast.
Before I go to any big box store, my first stop is my local feed and seed because just like what you said, they are selling what will grow in your area right now, not just what they were able to get from whatever company they use to stock their store. If you have a local feed and seed store, absolutely go there first. This year, I did have to start my fall garden from seedlings, and I got all of my seedlings from my local feed and seed stores.
We are approaching winter as we record this. And when we're thinking about small space vegetable gardening, you don't have to necessarily grow produce outside. So, Asia, what can people easily grow inside in a small space to get started?
Um, lettuce. It's one of those easy things to grow. I would say maybe two options. So if you have a window that gets enough sun, then you can absolutely put some of the smaller vegetables like lettuces, radishes, even miniature tomato plants. If you have a window that gets enough sun, and if your home is warm enough, you can try those things. Hydroponics growing is a great way to grow throughout the winter. I have two that I set up during the winter just so that I can still have, something growing that I don't have to go outside to get.
Thank you, Asia, so much for this conversation. You gave us a lot of great ideas.
And happy to hear that.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Mother Earth News and Friends. To listen to more podcasts and get connected on our social media, visit motherearthnews.com/podcast. You can also email us at podcast@ogdenpubs.com with any questions or suggestions. Our podcast production team includes Jessica Anderson, Kenny Coogan, and Alyssa Warner. Music for this episode is Hustle by Kevin MacLeod. The Mother Earth News and Friends podcast is a production of Ogden Publications. Until next time, don't forget to love your mother.